Well, we've had an incredible weekend of football. There was some absolute floggings, but we finished with an absolute cracker. We're going to digest all the football from round 20 in this episode. So sit back, enjoy, and let me know what you think in the comments. Welcome on into the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. We've got episode number 52 of season 2025 coming your way tonight. It is our round 20 review episode. A massive weekend of football. There was a lot of blowouts, not too many close games, but we finished with an absolute comeback for the ages. Incredible weekend. A lot of really incredible individual efforts by players. We're going to go through all of that, so we'll do a review on each of the matches. We'll have a look at the best players, the best teams, everything you need to know from the weekend of football, and then we'll wrap it up as we always do on our review episodes, having a look at MVP leaderboard, Brownlow leaderboard, and how our footy tips went on the weekend. So that's all to come in this episode. So sit back, enjoy. We're going to be doing about an hour, probably, to go through the 9 games. We do 2 episodes a week. This is our review episode. We do a preview episode, goes live every Thursday as well. So make sure you hit the subscribe or follow button depending on what platform you're listening or watching this on, so you don't miss an episode. We do 2 a week. Plenty of good football content to be seen. Plenty of social media stuff as well. It's All Aussie Rules everywhere. Go check it out. You'll find us pretty much anywhere there's social media. So yeah, let's jump into football. No more fluffing about. Let's jump into the first game of the weekend. It was back on Thursday night. It feels like forever ago after this weekend. But it was Hawthorn, it was Carlton, it was MCG Thursday night football. And this one, the damage was done in the first quarter. 6 goals to 1 in favour of the Hawks at quarter time. And then from then, Carlton actually won the rest of the game, but it was a bit of cruise control from Hawthorn. It was a bit of a nothing sort of match after that. Hawthorn absolutely dominated it, in all honesty, but the scoreboard says it was only a 24-point win. Never really did Carlton even feel like they were genuinely any chance of winning this game. It was certainly felt a bigger margin than 24 points. Yeah, that's pretty much the sum up of the game. We'll have a look at some of the team stats, some of the important stats from this game, where the game was won and lost. Hawthorn had a lot of the ball, there's no doubt about it. They had an extra 50 touches than Carlton in this one. Inside 50s actually ended up Carlton in front by 1, but that's a misleading stat, I think, in this game. Forward halftime, it was Hawthorn 53.6% of the time, so they certainly did have the ball. Carlton were dominant in the clearance and contested football game. That is what they specialise in over the last few years. This year, even still, they still continue to do that, but it hasn't helped them all that much. Intercept game, though, was Hawthorn's. Marks 116 to 95 in favour of Hawthorn. Shots +5 for Hawthorn. They had 24 shots for 13 goals compared to 19 shots for 9 goals for Carlton. Expected scores leaves it about the same sort of point, but it was a weird sort of game. The stats probably don't tell you how much Hawthorn won this one by. It was in the turnover. As we said, they were absolutely dominant in turnovers or intercepts in this game. Intercept marks especially, 26 to 13, but scoring from turnover as well, they dominated 58 to 27. They cleared them by a mile in the turnover game. And that's basically the difference between the two teams in this game. Hawthorn's turnover game really stepping up. Their transition game was pretty solid. Almost 40% defensive half to forward 50. Pretty solid number there. Defensive 50 to forward 50 was also 34%. So pretty solid numbers without being outstanding. Team ratings, the All Aussie Rules team rating. We do a rating for every team every single week. This week, Hawthorn a 49.71. Pretty good number. Plus 9.7 basically on Carlton, who were a 40. Below Carlton's average slightly above Hawthorn's average. So a good performance from Hawthorn, ignoring the score. They did what they needed to. They got the 4 points. And, I mean, overall, I think they'll be pretty happy with that. moving on to Brownlow votes, we've got Sicily for the 3. He was really good. Jack Gunston 2, Dylan Moore 1. I think Hawthorn had all the best players on the ground. MVP votes, if you're new around here, we do 10. We do top 5 players from both teams get MVP votes every single week. The winning team gets 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2 votes from first down to 5th. And for the losing team, it goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 from first down to 5th. So basically half for the losing team. Sicily, as I said, he played really well. He did rate the highest on the ground in this game. He had 25 touches. It's probably his best game of the year. 14 intercepts was the big thing that he did. 7 intercept marks throughout this game. Josh Ward maybe played his best game as well. 10 contested possessions in his 22 disposals. He was really efficient. Did a lot of good stuff. James Warple, he was solid. 17 touches in this game. It wasn't a massive disposal getting game for anyone, in all honesty. Jack Ginnivan was really good as well. 18 touches as well as a goal in this one. And Massimo D'Ambrosio on the wing played one of his better games this year. He hasn't been outstanding throughout this year so far. Probably dropped off a little bit on last year's numbers. But this was a pretty solid game on the outside from him. 22 touches for him. For Carlton, their best was Adam Sard, or at least their highest rated player, according to the All Aussie Rules rating system. We rate every player every single week. So stick around. You'll get to know the system a little bit. I'm trying to be more transparent with it. We're trying to, we do ratings for every week, and that gives us ratings for the season and whatnot. So, yeah. Anyway, that's how these votes are adjudicated. 4 for Will White. Outstanding performance from him. Only the 12 touches, but a couple goals. Did what he needed to up forward. Good solid effort. Adam Chera, he played a good game without being outstanding. 19 touches in this one. Harry O'Farrell was 2 votes. And George Hewitt, not his best game of the season, but it was solid enough. He gets 1 vote. What to say about these two teams in this game? Hawthorn did what they needed to. Carlton, their season continues to kind of flounder at just a little bit off the pace, in all honesty. They've played Hawthorn twice this year. The first time they lost by 20, this time they lose by 24. So much the same result both times. Hawthorn end the round this week. It's sitting 5th on the ladder, just outside the top 4, equal on points, just down on percentage on Geelong in 4th. And then GWS and Fremantle below them are also on the same amount of points, just behind them on percentage. And of course, Gold Coast have played 1 less game, but 1 game back. So maybe arguably also in that hunt. It's getting really tight for those top spots. There's only a few games between 1st and basically 7th at the moment. 2 games between the top 7, maybe 8 if you consider the fact that Gold Coast have played 1 less game. So every game is important. Every match, every result is very, very important. And there is a massive one coming up next week for Hawthorn. They have Adelaide over in Adelaide. Both teams in some really good form. This will potentially determine who finishes top 4 or top 2. The winner of this gets a really, really good shot at finishing top 2. The loser will have a little bit of work to do. Of course, Adelaide's percentage is really, really good. So, and they're a game ahead of Hawthorn. So a loss won't be the end of the world for them. But Hawthorn lose this one, you can probably say goodbye to top 2, and top 4 might be very difficult depending on what the rest of the top 9 teams do this week. Carlton, their season's done, sitting on 7 wins from 19 matches. Not good enough. From where they were pre-season, thinking maybe another tilt at finals, should be another tilt at finals. They just haven't performed this year. They've only won 1 out of their last 5. They're really, really struggling at the moment, and it's hard to see. They've only won 1 of their last 6, actually. It's just hard to see a world where they turn that around. The off-season is going to be big for them, I think. They've got Fremantle next week. That's certainly not going to be an easy game. There's no doubt about it. Fremantle, massive game for them to try and play finals. So One team with a lot to play for, the other one not so much in that game. Moving on to Friday night footy, we had 2 games this week on Friday. We started, well, they both overlapped a lot, but the first one to kick off was Essendon Bulldogs. Bulldogs absolutely smoked them. For the second time that they've played them this year, and the second time they've won by 90 points. I think it was 91 last time, 93 this time. It was over pretty quickly. It was 6 goals to 2 in the first quarter, and then it just kind of extended 4 goals to 0 in the second, and then 7 goals to 2 in the third, and then finished with 5 goals to 3 in the last. It was a demolition. It was the tall forwards, it was the gun midfielders, it was just an all-round demolition job by the Bulldogs in this one. A look at some of the key stats and important numbers from this game. It was only plus 10 inside 50s for the Bulldogs, so not a massive domination. Forward half time was 53.5% for Bulldogs, so they did control the ground pretty well. Intercepts plus 3 for Bulldogs, so they won that area as well. They also won clearances plus 5, so it was just a game where they just kind of won every category. Didn't dominate every single stat category, but won every single category. Shots ended up being 35 to 20, massive in favour of the Bulldogs, obviously 22 goals to 7. Expected score maybe slightly flatters the Bulldogs a little bit. Probably could have been 20 points closer, maybe the Bombers. But in the end, it was just a domination. Transition was really, really high numbers from the Bulldogs. Essendon numbers slightly low by their standards, even, to be honest. Scoring from turnover, Doggies 86 to 17, absolute domination in that area. 49 to 32 from stoppage, so they did okay from that area. Arguably, so did the Bombers. 32 to 49 isn't terrible. Defensive half, though, this is an incredible effort. Bulldogs scored 82 points, 13 goals, 4 from the defensive half. That's one of the best numbers we've seen this year, and yeah, it was just really, really good. In contrast, the Bombers scored 9 points from defensive half. That's where it was done. Defensive half and turnover. Bulldogs just did what they needed to, and they get the comfortable win. Team rating, Bombers 36.67, which is probably on par with what they've been putting up over recent weeks. Bulldogs a 54.32 is one of the best rated games of the season in terms of rating and in terms of margin between the two teams' ratings for a match. Brownlow votes, I think these are the 3 players that will get the votes. In what order we might have to wait and see. But Aaron Norton, I've gone 3. Sam Darcy, 2. Marcus Bontempelli gets the 1. The reason I didn't give Bont 3 is because not most, but he did have a really, really dominant last quarter, which put his numbers up a bit. Prior to that, it was at 3/4 time, I think it was all 3 of them really close, but I think Bont really dominated that last quarter, and because of that, the game was already over. I decided to go the other way. MVP, Bont did rate the highest in this game. For the second week in a row, he's had an absolute blinder. 35 touches in this one to go with 2 goals, 10 marks. He pretty much did it all. 14 contested possessions, 7 clearances. He is the best player in the competition still. There's a lot of players chasing him down for that title, but at the moment, as of last year, he rated the highest, and so far this year, he actually, as of this game, now rates slightly higher than he did at the end of last season. So another incredible season from him. Sam Darcy, he gets 8. He kicked 6 goals in this, 6 goals, 2 from 8 shots. He was really, really good around the ground as well. 16 touches. Aaron Norton, another big forward game from him and Darcy. 7 goals for Norton. So 13 goals between those 2 talls. They just got the job done when they needed to. 4 votes goes to Ed Richards. Another really good performance from him. 24 touches. Another running, carrying game from him. Another good performance. He also kicked 2 goals as well. So between those 4 players, they've had something, I can't work out the disposals, but somewhere around the 80 disposals, as well as 17 goals, 5 between those 4 players. Take out those 4, maybe the Bombers were close, who knows? But yeah, absolute domination by those 4. Bailey Dale gets the 2 votes. He was solid off the half-back line. He didn't have his 49 disposals that he had last time they met, but he had 20 disposals, was good enough. On the Essendon side of the fence, no one rated highly, let's be fair, but Dylan Shield gets the 5 for being their highest rated player, 29 disposals. Sam Durham continued his good season, 27 touches in this, as well as 9 clearances. Mason Redmond was solid, 23 touches. Zach Merritt had some decent numbers throughout this game, had 30 touches. He gets 2 votes, and Andy McGrath gets 1 off the back line for 22 disposals, a run and carry game from him. That's pretty much everything from the game. Let's have a look at what it means for both teams. The only important team, I guess, out of the game really is the Bulldogs. They sit 9th on the ladder, still a game behind the Gold Coast Suns, as well as Gold Coast Suns have a game in hand. So technically 2 games out of the 8, really, when you look at it. And that's probably the way it's going to stay next week. There's a big 8-point game for the Doggies, though, because they play GWS. They're still going to be outside of the 8, no matter the result of that game. But if they can win that one, it gets them to within a game of GWS. And they have a really good percentage, the Bulldogs. So they lose that, it might be all done. That might be their season done, because they lose next week. You'd imagine Gold Coast are going to win because they play Richmond. Fremantle should win. They play Carlton. GWS obviously are playing against the Bulldogs. Geelong should win. Hawthorn will be a tough one, but even if Hawthorn lose, they're still going to be 2 games behind them, with only three games to go. So yeah, they can't afford to lose, basically, is the sum of that one. It's a massive game. GWS, who will win it? It's as big a game as we've had this year, and probably the biggest game of next weekend. There's a couple big ones, but that one is one of the, if not the biggest. Bombers, they're 15th on the ladder. They're a long way down. They haven't won a game for a while. They probably won't win another game this year. They play Sydney next week, who effectively are officially done. 3 games out of the 8 with 4 to play. Technically, they can make finals. They can't make finals, though, let's be honest. So nothing to play for, really, for both teams. Bombers sitting 15th, as we said. They probably stay 15th for the rest of the season. And yeah, that sums up game number 2. There was another game on Friday night. It was GWS and it was Sydney. And this was one of the weirder games of the weekend. There was a couple weird ones, to be honest, but this might be the biggest one. Toby Green has a little dig at Tom Papley at halftime, and it gets his boys up and going. Sydney dominated early. They kicked the last goal of the first quarter to give them a 15-point lead at quarter time, and then they dominated through most of the way through the second quarter. GWS managed to kick a late goal just before halftime to get themselves back to 28 points heading into halftime. So they were down by 34 with only a couple minutes to go in that second quarter. And then after that, it was one-way traffic. They went goal for goal early. GWS kicked the first one about a minute in through Finn Callaghan. Then Justin McInerney kicked a goal for the Swans to get it back to 28 points, or roughly 28 points, 27, I think. And then, crazily enough, that was Sydney's last goal. Their last goal they kicked was 2 minutes 35 into the third quarter. GWS went absolute bonkers through the middle to late stages of the quarter. Across a 15-minute period, they kicked 7 goals in 15 minutes of real lifetime. And it was basically good night. All she wrote. They ended up being 23 points up at three-quarter time after being 28 points down at halftime. They kicked 9 goals, 3 So 1 goal straight. And then the final quarter was a bit more of that. They kicked 3 more goals to 0 goals for Sydney. It was one of the big turnarounds that you'll ever see. A wild little scoreworm, if you look at that on the AFL website. Unbelievable game. I look at some of the key stats in this one for both teams. And it was a tale of two halves, there's no doubt about it, on the stat sheet. And in every single possible way. Disposals ends up basically the same. Forward halftime, though, GWS dominated it, which is not something that they dominate too often. They ended up 54.7% in their forward half. They also won inside 50s plus 10. These are stats that GWS don't tend to win too often. So maybe that's just a sign of a developing team that's really starting to hit their straps. Who knows? They were plus 15 in intercepts. They looked after the ball. Sydney only managed 45 intercepts for the game, which just, you're not going to win too many games with that. They were plus 14 on clearances, though. The Swans, once again, GWS not solid in the clearance game. They get beaten a lot of weeks in that area. Marks was 102 to 73, so that just shows how much the Giants controlled the ball throughout this game. 32 shots to 19. Sydney just could not do anything in that second half. Only managed like 3 shots in the second half or something very ridiculously low. It just was a poor performance, in all honesty, from the Swans in that second half. Looking at scoring sources, turnover, GWS did really well, 59 to 34. And even though we said Sydney dominated clearances for the game, like plus 9 or whatever it was, plus 14, sorry, they actually scored less from clearances than the Giants. 14 less clearances for the Giants, but outscored them by 19 points. That's just unacceptable, really, from Sydney. GWS, really good performance to score 6 goals, 7 from 27 clearances is a really, really good performance. Defensive half scoring was solid from GWS, 38 to 14, and forward half was 49 to 35. So a game where Giants just controlled the game, in all honesty, after about halfway through that second quarter. Sydney looked absolutely dominant early and looked like they were going to run away with it. But the Giants just showed them who's boss, really, and showed the difference between a team that's going to play finals and a team that perhaps is going to end up a long way off. Who knows? They might win a few more games. They probably win most of their games going in, but they're still going to end up probably 2, maybe 3 games outside the 8. Team ratings 47.64 for the Giants, pretty solid number. 41.41 for Sydney is a number of a losing team, in all honesty. Brownlow votes for this one. Finn Callaghan for the Giants. He's in sublime form at the moment. He gets the 3. Harry Himmelberg gets the 2. And Lachie Whitfield 1. Plenty of other players that could get votes in this game. Cadman kicked 3, Stringer kicked 3 goals, so they both played pretty solid games. But that's the way I see it going. MVP votes for the winning team, 10 to Finn Callaghan. He was best on ground, highest rated player. Absolutely outstanding performance from him. Only the 21 touches, but every time he touched it, something good happened. He kicked a goal, 6 inside 50s. He did what he needed to and rated the highest. Harry Himmelberg was second best, so he gets 8 votes in the MVP award. 23 touches, 11 marks, really good performance. Cadman, as we said, he kicked 3 goals, 1 from 11 disposals, really good game from him. Stringer, also 3 goals from 13 touches, a really good second half. Lachie Whitfield, running off the back flank, was solid enough in this game throughout. Not his best game of all time, but 27 touches, did run, carry, 8 marks, 530 metres gained, was solid enough. 2 votes. For the losing team, 5 votes goes to Callum Mills, who is playing some pretty solid football at the moment. He's just perhaps not getting enough support from his teammates. He had 22 touches and a goal, pretty solid. Brody Grundy continued his great form. He played a good game, 24 touches, absolutely dominated the ruck battle throughout this game, was clearly the best tall, like ruckman at least, on the ground by a long way. He just didn't get enough support from his gun players around him. Chad Warner gets 3. not his greatest game, but he gets 3 votes because just the lack of other players playing well. Errol Goulden wasn't as good as last week either. He gets 2 votes, and Jack Lloyd gets the 1 vote in this one. And that's how the votes go. Looking ahead, as we said, GWS, they play Bulldogs next week. They're 6th on the ladder, the Giants, at the moment. But they are only a game and percentage away from the top 2. They win against the Bulldogs next week, and not only is top 4 still online, top 2 is online. However, if they were to drop next week, all of a sudden they're looking at perhaps almost certainly playing an elimination final and potentially having an away elimination final, which would be crazy because they've been winning games non-stop. I think they've won 6 in a row, and yet they still are struggling to catch up because it's basically the top 9 teams are just continually winning games, and everybody else on the ladder is just losing games. So you have to keep winning to keep up at the moment. And at the moment, you'd have to think the Giants are one of the best, most informed teams in the competition. Their percentage is on par with Hawthorn, only 1 percentage point behind them. And Gold Coast, who are 1 game less than them, a similar percentage as well. So it's going to be really tight, and they have to go out and beat the Bulldogs next week. Sydney, they play the Bombers next week. It's an irrelevant match, but Sydney will probably win that one by 100 points based on how things have gone lately. So yeah, we won't go into that game too much because it just doesn't mean a whole lot, let's be honest. We'll move into Saturday football, and we had the Q Clash kicking us off. This was billed as one of the games of the round, and it did not live up to that. Gold Coast Suns. What is going on the Gold Coast? They smoke Big Brother Brisbane in this one. 130-64, 66-point winners. After a pretty close-ish first quarter and a half, it was only maybe 10, 15, 20 points throughout most of the first half. But just before half-time, the Suns kicked the last 3, led by Noah Anderson, in all honesty. He's played a really good 5-minute patch that just led to a couple goals for them. And all of a sudden, they were up by 33 at half-time. And then after that, it just continued away. They kicked the first 4 goals of the second half, including 3 of those within about the space of 3 or 4 minutes. And it was game over. They were 10 goals up at 3-quarter time, and the final quarter didn't really change much, but it was just one-way traffic, in all honesty, throughout this game. It was a home game for Gold Coast, but a just really solid team performance here. Brisbane, not great at all. This is probably Gold Coast's best win of the season. I know they beat Collingwood 2 weeks ago, which was a really good win, but it just felt like it wasn't as solid as this because they did let themselves down in that second half by not playing quite as good football. They played 4 quarters of football here against Brisbane and absolutely tore them to shreds. Outstanding performance from them, and really sets their last 4 or 5 games up to give them a serious crack. They should play finals net from here, and not only that, they could have a home final or a top 4 spot on the line here. They just need to keep winning games of football. A look at the key stats in this one. Where did this go wrong for Brisbane, I guess, and what went right for Gold Coast? Plus 80 odd disposals for Gold Coast. They just had the football all game. They just did what they wanted. Plus 11 inside 50s. They had the ball in their half most of the way through the game. They dominated contested football. They dominated clearances plus 12. They also, intercept game was 76 apiece. We'll get to the scoring from intercepts shortly, but it was just a domination. 34 shots to 20. No matter what you look at on the stat sheet, it was pretty much this game controlled by Gold Coast. Maybe won by a little bit more than perhaps they could have based on expected scores, but take nothing away from them. They were absolutely outstanding in this one. The Gold Coast Suns, they dominated clearances plus 12. They also dominated scoring from stoppages 84 to 23. That is absolutely tearing your opposition apart. There's no doubt about it. They just got it out of the clearances and scored goals. They scored 7 goals from the centre bounce in this game. That is ridiculous. 7 goals to 0. 44 to 1. That you're not going to lose if you score 7 goals out of the centre bounce. Let me tell you that right now. And not only that, you're not going to win if you don't kick a goal from the centre bounce when your opposition kicks 7. That is the biggest margin we've had this year, and absolutely ridiculous numbers. That is the game. That's all you need to know about this game, I think. Gold Coast won from pretty much every scoring avenue there is, but that centre bounce is where it was done. 44-1. That is absurd numbers. Team rating 54.06 is Gold Coast's best game, I think, of the season. 48.6 for Brisbane is one of their worst. This on par with their home 50-odd point loss to Collingwood back on Easter weekend. They have some stuff to look at after this game. There's no doubt about it. Brownlow votes Matt Rowell has to get the 3. He was insanely good in this game. Fantastic performance from him. Ben Ainsworth gets the 2 votes from me and 1 to Noah Anderson. I think they were the 3 best players on the ground, but Alex Davies was really good as well. Yeah, I don't know. What do we say about this performance? It was just really good from Gold Coast. MVP votes 10 to Matt Rowell, clearly highest rated player on the ground. He had 37 disposals and 15 clearances. He is absolutely dominating out of the middle at the moment, out of stoppage, and just doing stuff that nobody else in the competition can. He's probably the best clearance player in the game right now, and his numbers just continually improve each week. Alex Davies was the second highest rated player for Gold Coast. He gets 8 votes. He had 30 touches in this game in his first hit out of the season. A really good performance from him. Joel Jeffrey, he gets 6. He had 32 touches as well. Insane numbers here from Gold Coast. Noah Anderson, who played an absolutely outstanding game, only gets 4 votes, 33 disposals and a goal. And Ben Ainsworth, 27 touches, 3 goals, and I think a couple goal assists as well, if I remember correctly. A really good performance from him. Brisbane side of the fence, Lockie Neal gets the 5 votes. He was good, 36 touches, so he had a lot of it as well, 1 goal. Hugh McCluggage was good, 28 touches and a goal. Josh Dunkley, they're all their midfielders, but they weren't as good as their opposition midfielders, Matt Rowell and Anderson and Alex Davies tore them to shreds. Darcy Wilmot gets the 2 and 1 to Cam Rayner, even though it was a little bit junk time from him. He got 19 touches, 3 goals. I think most of that was in that last quarter when the game was well and truly done. What else do we have to look at from this game is just basically what that leaves both of these teams. It means that Brisbane actually drop a spot on the ladder. They go from 2nd down to 3rd and back to a game and a half behind Collingwood and half a game behind Adelaide and only half a game ahead of pretty much everybody else in the 8. Is it possible that the Lions miss the 8 from here? That would be absurd. They're still 2.5 games ahead of the Bulldogs, so they would have to fall apart completely. But they have a massive game at the MCG on the weekend. They play Collingwood, and they're going to have their work cut out for them. There's no doubt about it going into this one. They're going to have to perform. They're going to have to turn themselves around because they did not play well this week. There's going to be some big conversations, I think, in Brisbane land this week. And I expect that they'll come out, bounce back, and completely forget about this game against Gold Coast. But they're going to have their work cut out for them, no doubt about it, against the top of the ladder, Collingwood, next week. If they win it, top 2 is still well and truly in their sights. If they lose to Collingwood this week, all of a sudden, they're falling back. They'll fall out of the top 4 if they lose and be right down towards the bottom end of the top 8. And with not many weeks to go, it would just add a little bit of pressure to the Brisbane Lions season. Because after that, they do play Sydney the week after at the Gabba, which maybe they should win, but it's not going to be the easiest game of all time. There's no question about that. Then they travel across to Perth for Freo. So that will be a tough game. And then they finish their season back at home against Hawthorn. So They've all of a sudden under a little bit of pressure, whether they can make even the 8 at this point. There's a world where they don't finish in the top 8. That is absurd thinking. On the other side of the fence, Gold Coast Suns played one less game than everyone else, sit 8th on the ladder, really good percentage. If you consider that extra game they played, the Essendon game, as a win and probably a slight percentage boost, arguably they're 5th on the ladder right now. Arguably. So, from here, top 4 is still well and truly on the cards. They have Richmond next week, which should be a percentage booster in all honesty, but Richmond did beat them last time, but that was at Marvel. This is up on the Gold Coast, so certainly an easier task this time round. Gold Coast have some winnable games coming home as well. Obviously, they've got Richmond next week. Then they play Carlton, which they should win that one as well. Then GWS, that's going to be a huge game, potential top 4 ramifications. And then they finish with Essendon and Port Adelaide. So, once again, 2 more winnable games. They could well win 4 of their last 5. They could even win 5 out of 5, which would get them to like 16 or 17 wins. And if they do that, they will finish top 4. You'd think so. Top 4 on the line for the Gold Coast Suns. Massive, massive chance next week against Richmond to get a win and get some percentage points to stay in a good percentage spot with Hawthorn, GWS, and Fremantle. Well above them would be good for the Gold Coast Suns. That's everything from that game. We've looked at everything we need to. The next game on Saturday was the Western Derby, or Derby, whichever way you want to say it. I don't particularly care. I'm not going to get drawn into conversations about which way it should be. I know the West call it Derby, though. This went the way we expected. 18-18, 126 for the Dockers to 12-5. 77 for the Eagles. 49-point winners were the Dockers. Pretty comfortable in the end. It wasn't dominant. West Coast started all right, but Freo kicked away late in the first quarter and then just kind of held it, extended it a little bit throughout. They win by enough, do it comfortable enough, and the numbers and the stats probably suggest they perhaps should have won by more. A bit similar to the Hawthorn-Carlton game in a lot of respects, I think. This one, looking at some key numbers from the team stats side of things, plus 60 odd disposals for Freo. They had extra 14 inside 50s, 54% in their forward half. They also had an extra 900 metres gained in this game, plus 5 interceptions, plus 19 clearances. They dominated pretty much every facet of the game. They also had 40 shots to 20 in this game. 40 shots, only 18 goals. Perhaps let themselves down a little bit with their finishing, did the Dockers. Scoring from stoppages, 68 to 31 was really good from Fremantle. Turnovers didn't dominate it, in all honesty. Probably one of West Coast's better performance in the turnover stakes, only losing by 10 points in that regard, 56 to 46. Defensive half, though, was where Freo did this. Transition game was on point, 58 to 26. 35% change to score is a really high number. In contrast, West Coast were 18%. They just transitioned the ball really consistently well throughout this game, Freo, and that was the difference. Just that ability to continually chain and get it forward, carry the ground, and inevitably have a shot at goal. They didn't convert them all, but they did move it really well. Team rating 46.53. Not outstanding by Fremantle, no doubt about it. It's around about their average, so it wasn't a bad performance. It wasn't outstanding, though. 36.54 is about where West Coast is this year. They're just a long way off the pace of most teams. There's no doubt about it. Occasionally they play a good game. They weren't terrible in this game, but they weren't great. Brownlow votes Hayden Young got subbed Delph, but still, I think he gets the 3. Murphy Reid 2. Andrew Brayshaw 1. There's plenty of players that could get votes. Probably all Fremantle players, in all honesty. Liam Baker was really good for the Eagles, but I just don't think when they lost by 49 points that he was good enough to get votes. Michael Frederick could get votes. Caleb Sarong, technically. Luke Jackson, maybe. Just plenty of good role players from Fremantle in this. MVP votes. Hayden Young got subbed off. Only played about 58% game time, I think, in this one. 57% game time, in fact. And had 23 touches, 3 goals. Him back into the team from injury is a massive inclusion for them going towards finals. It could be the little tipping point that just takes them to the next step. They've been in some really good form, but it could just take them to that next level. Really good game from him. Luke Jackson gets the 8 votes. He's been in some really good form. 21 touches here and a goal. Michael Frederick played his best game of the year. There's no doubt about it. His form this year has not been splendid, but he was good here. 10 touches, 4 goals. Murphy Reid played his best game of his career so far, I think, in all honesty. He had 23 touches and a goal. He was everywhere and did a really good job. Caleb Sarong was a bit quiet throughout most of the game, but 20 touches and 8 clearances gets him the 2 votes. For the Eagles, as I said, Liam Baker was actually the highest rated player on the ground. He had 24 touches, 5 intercepts, 2 goals. Played a really good game, just did not have enough support. Tim Kelly played his best game of the year by far. 26 touches, 8 clearances. Tom Cole, he's been in their top 5 players 3 weeks in a row. He's playing some good football. Jamie Cripps kicked the first goal. He was solid enough. Tom McCarthy, since joining the West Coast in the mid-season, has been really good, really consistent. 21 touches here. Played another good game. That pretty much sums up the MVP and the game. Looking forward for both teams. Fremantle are the only one looking at finals, obviously. Their form's really good. I think they've won like 8 out of 9, or is it 9 out of 10, something like that. They're playing some really good football. They have Carlton next week in what is a really important game for them. There's no doubt about it. It is a home game. They should win it. Where they are on the ladder right now is 7th on the ladder. They need to keep winning, and they probably also would really like some percentage boost, because right now there's only one team in the top 8 that has a lower percentage than them, and that's Brisbane, who percentage doesn't really matter for right now because they have the draw. So arguably they have the lowest percentage in the top 8, or top 9 really. So if they can get some percentage boost, it would be very handy for them. If they can get up to a similar number to the GWS, Hawthorn and Gold Coast, that would be massive in their chances for finals. They should play finals from here. They absolutely should. But the same thing could be said last year, when 4 games to go, they were sitting around about 4th on the ladder and then lost 4 in a row and missed finals. They play Carlton though next week. That is a winnable game. Should be a winnable game. Should be a percentage boosting win as well. After that, things get interesting because they play Port Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval, which right now, the way Port Adelaide are playing, that is another winnable game and one they should win. And once again, potentially maybe improve their percentage. They then host Brisbane in what could be a very important game, depending where both teams are at that point. It will definitely be very crucial in the run home, though, that game, before they finish their season on the road to Marvel Stadium to the Bulldogs. So that's a really tough last 2 weeks, especially that last one. So they need to win games right now, and they need to boost their percentage because their last 2 weeks are going to be tough. There's no doubt about it. Their next 2 are definitely winnable and should win them both. West Coast, they've won 1 game this season. They've guaranteed themselves a wooden spoon. They're 3.5 games off 17th with 4 games to play. So technically they could pass North Melbourne, but they're not going to. They don't have another winnable game, I don't think, really, in the run home. They've got Melbourne next week, which, I mean, I can't see them winning that one at Marvel. But you never know. Strange things do happen. They probably have played better on the road recently than they do at home. They then host Adelaide. They're not winning that one. They then go to Marvel Stadium to play the Bulldogs. They're not winning that one. There's not a chance they win that game. And then they finish the season at home against Sydney. Maybe, who knows, crazy things happen, but I just don't see them winning that one either. So I think they're potentially probably going to finish the season on one win for the year, which is not outstanding. It's not great, but that's basically where they're at. We move on to the next game. It was Saturday night football. There was two games on Saturday night. The first one was a flogging. It's the first 100-point win of the season. It was Geelong North Melbourne. 7-7-49 for the Roos. 22-18, 150 for the Cats. They smacked them pillar to post in this one. Throughout, they dominated. There's no doubt about it. It was a game that was basically how many goals will Jeremy Cameron kick? From pretty early on, that is about all we were thinking. He ended up the game kicking 11 goals. He outscored Kangaroos in the first quarter. He outscored them in the second quarter. He outscored them in the third quarter. Kangaroos did beat him in the fourth quarter. Well done to them. But throughout the game, he kicked 11 goals. One, I think. Kangaroos kicked 7-7. Just not good enough. Worth noting, I have stuffed up this graphic. Just swap the MVP votes around. Obviously, if you're watching this, the 10-8-6-4-2. It's actually on the other side. Should be for the Geelong players. 5-4-3-2-1 should be for the Kangaroos. But don't worry about that. Yeah, just pillar to post. Absolute demolition. Kangaroos, from early in this game, looked very, very uncompetitive, especially through the second and third quarters. Yeah, just Kangaroos. What to say about them? I think there's just nothing you can say. I don't think really. The numbers will read really bad for Kangaroos as well. There's no doubt about it. Disposal numbers weren't that dissimilar. Once again, North had plenty of touches. They tend to. Inside 50s though, 41 difference. 77-36. That is absurd. Forward halftime, 65% of the game the ball was in the Geelong forward half. Ridiculous numbers. 132 to 116 in contested possessions. Intercepts plus 10 for Geelong. Clearances plus 10 for Geelong. So they're winning the ball first. No, weren't turning it over very often either. 42 shots to 17 in this one. Expected margin, about 100 points. Transition game obviously was pretty good from Geelong. The ball just sat in their forward half, so obviously they scored from the forward half really well. 79-9 in that area. Turnover was 87-26. Stoppages was 57-16. It was just one-way traffic throughout this game. And that's basically the long and the short of it. Team rating 53-1-5 for Geelong. Pretty solid. 38-4-5 for Kangaroos. They just weren't even in this game. Probably gets boosted a little bit by the fact that they actually had quite a few disposals in this game, the Kangaroos, but they weren't competitive. Brownlow votes. There's no way Jeremy Cameron doesn't get the 3 votes in this. He kicked 11 goals. Like, he has to get the 3. Bailey Smith, unlucky. He had 43 touches and a goal, and he's only going to get 2 votes. And Max Holmes, I've given the 1 vote to. He's been really good this year. MVP votes, as I said, the graphic is wrong, but the 10 goes to Jeremy Cameron. 22 touches, 11 goals, 1. 15 shots. Could have kicked a even bigger bag than he did. Bailey Smith for 43 touches and a goal. He's been really good this year. His last month or so, he's missed a few games, but haven't been as big. But this week, he was fully back. Shannon Neal gets the 3. He kicked 4 goals from his 15 touches. He was good. Max Holmes, as I said, he got Brownlow votes from me. He had 29 touches. And Tommy Atkins gets the 1 for his 25 disposals in this game. Worth noting also, I missed about Bailey Smith. He had 13 clearances, so nearly as many as Matt Rao. Kangaroos, 5 votes. Colby McKercher, he had 32 disposals in this game. 17 handball receives. A lot of run and carry from him. Jai Simpkin gets the 8. He was solid without being great. 24 touches. Bryn Teakle in the ruck was okay. filling in for Tristan Cherry. Luke Parker gets the 4 and Tom Powell gets the 2, but Kangaroos absolutely decimated in this one. Where does that leave these two teams? Geelong still sitting 4th on the ladder. Really healthy percentage, almost level percentage with Collingwood now. They are 2 games behind them, but it is possible still that they jump Collingwood at some point this season if they continually win games, which they should win all 4 of their games. I think they have Port Adelaide next week. That is a definite winnable game. It's one that they should win quite comfortably. It's at GMHBA Stadium. They should be winning that one, you'd think, based on what we've seen from Port Adelaide recently. Then they have Essendon, once again at the Cattery, another percentage boosting win, you'd think. Then they go to Sydney. That's their toughest game coming home. Maybe the only one they will drop, because then the final week they have Richmond. So definitely 3 wins in the remaining fixture for Geelong. That would get them to 16. If they win all 4, they would be on 17. And that would be definitely enough for top 4. Potentially even top 2 or top 1, depending on what happens with Collingwood, Adelaide and Brisbane in the run home. Their season, though, is flying. They've got all things going the right direction. If they can stay fit and healthy, there's not much going to stop them, I don't think. North Melbourne, they're 17th on the ladder. They're only half a game off Richmond in 16th. They're not going to drop to 18th. They've got St Kilda next week, so that is a winnable game. Arguably, they could end up passing Richmond on the ladder, maybe even, depending what happens. St Kilda won this weekend, but I still wouldn't write Kangaroos off, even though they were dreadful this weekend. After that, though, it's GWS in Canberra. It's Richmond down in Hobart, so that is a winnable game. So they definitely could win 1, maybe 2 more games this season. They finish with Adelaide, which is definitely not a winnable game. They're going to finish probably 16 to 18. They could win 2 games, which would see them potentially jump Essendon. But they probably win 1, maybe. Although Richmond, at current form, probably beat them, even down in Tassie. That's that game. The other Saturday night game was the Showdown, and another absolute flogging. Worst Showdown ever by Port Adelaide. Their biggest loss in Showdown history. They lost by 98 points, and it got very close to 100. Adelaide piled it on in the last quarter, kicked 8 goals to 0 in the final quarter. Port Adelaide kicked all 5 of their goals to one end of the football field. They kicked 3 goals in the first and 2 goals in the third quarter. It was a domination by Adelaide. They are flying. They are looking so good. And to win by 98 points in the torrential downpour is a fantastic effort from them, and an effort that just sets their second half of the the run home really well. They have genuine sights on finishing minor premiers here. You'd have to think that it's very, very possible. They're only 1 game and behind Collingwood. They've got a higher percentage than them, and they do play each other in Adelaide in a few weeks' time. So it's all to play for. And big time for Adelaide to start stepping up. There's no doubt about that. The stats in this one, the important stats are all going to go Adelaide, let's be honest. Plus 68 disposals. It was wet weather footy, and Adelaide played it right. They had an extra 1,200 metres gained. They had 22 extra inside 50s. They had the ball in the forward half 57% of the game time. Had an extra 18 intercepts in this one. Port Adelaide had 96 turnovers. That is ridiculous numbers. That's one of the highest numbers I've ever seen. Plus 7 in clearances for Adelaide. They had 39 shots to 15, 20 goals to 5. They absolutely flog them. 103 tackles to 73. They just outworked them. They outplayed them. They outskilled them. They out-everything them in this game. Turnover scoring was 77 to 27 in favour of Adelaide. Stoppage scoring was 56 to 8 in favour of Adelaide. Forward half scoring 89 to 20. It is wet weather, so you'd expect a bulk of your scoring to come from the forward half, and Adelaide did it absolutely sensationally. Another big score from them, another low score against them. everything's showing that they're going to be competitive in September. Team rating 52.26 is above their average. 34.13 is one of Port Adelaide's worst performances of the year. I think this is their third 90-point loss of the year. They just haven't been good enough. They've fallen off the absolute planet and playing some terrible football at the moment. Brownlow votes in this one. Saligo have gone 3, Peatling 2, Riley Thilthorpe 1. Who knows where they're going to go, because there was about 12 players from Adelaide that played really good games of football and could all get votes. MVP, I've gone 10. Well, I don't really choose the MVP votes. It goes by the rating system. But Thilthorpe rated the highest on the ground. He had 19 touches, 3 goals in the wet. Big man getting the job done in wet weather football. Outstanding effort. Saligo finished the game really strong. Kicked 2 goals, 35 touches. He gets 8. Neil Bullen, 2 weeks in a row, has played a really good game. He played his best game as a Crow last week, and this might have been his second best game as a Crow. He had 18 touches and a goal. Ben Keys, really good. Could have been outstanding. Had 7 shots, 3 goals, 4. And Jordan Dawson gets the 2. Maybe sneaks a Brownlow vote. He's going to be in contention with the Brownlow, you'd think. I wouldn't put him down for 3, but he might sneak a vote. On the other side of the fence, Port Adelaide just had no one performing great, let's be honest. Zach Butters was their best. He had 34 touches, 11 clearances. He worked bloody hard. Jordan Sweet played well. He had 11 touches. Not as good as he was in the ruck last week, but still, he was okay. Kane Farrell, 24 touches, was okay. Alir gets 2. He was under pressure throughout this game. His rating wasn't great, but it was just better than most of the others in the team. Pardon me. Willem Drew gets the 1. This game was over from basically the opening bounce when the ball went up. Bergman got the clearance and kicked it straight into the Adelaide forward 50, about 30 metres out from the Adelaide goal, and hit Darcy Fogarty on the chest. That was how the game started for Port Adelaide, and that's how their game continued throughout. Where does that leave both of these teams? We've been saying all night, Adelaide really looking towards that minor premiership next week is huge in their quest for that. It's a double 8-pointer, as the media love to say. Hawthorn, who's a game behind them and a bit of percentage, that's who they play next week. It's in Adelaide as well. If Adelaide win this one, they have genuine minor premiership hopes. If they drop it, then all of a sudden the minor premiership might just have slipped away. But top 4 is still well and truly on the cards. There are other games in the run home. They've got a couple easier away games, I believe. So they play West Coast in round 22. Round 23, they host Collingwood, and then they finish with North Melbourne in Melbourne. All winnable games. There's 2 really tough ones, though, the Hawthorn and Collingwood ones. But thankfully for Adelaide, they're both at Adelaide Oval. They win all 4 of those games. Minor premiership is theirs. There's no doubt about it. If they were to drop both of those 2 games, though, all of a sudden they're going to be sitting probably with a home elimination final, maybe a qualifying final. So there's a lot to play for them for the rest of the season. Port Adelaide, they're done and dusted. They're 11th on the ladder, 8 wins, 11 losses. They just keep getting flogged. Their percentage is terrible. They're just not playing good enough football. They play Geelong next week. They've got a few games against teams in the top 8, and it's maybe they'll turn up and ruin someone's party. Who knows? But as we've seen so far throughout this season, and certainly at the moment, they're just a little bit off the pace, and you've only got to be a little bit off the pace and you're a long way back. It's pretty simple. That's a wrap on that game. We move to Sunday football. Richmond hosted Collingwood in the first of 2 Sunday games. It was a less exciting game of the 2. Wait till we get to the finish. But Collingwood win at 13-15-93 to 8-9-57 for the Tigers. It was a game that kind of, for the first quarter and a half, Richmond stayed right in it. They kicked the first 2 goals. well, they kicked a goal on the siren of quarter time and then kicked the first goal of the second quarter to get within. I think that tied it up actually, and then later on they kicked a goal to get within a point. Collingwood kicked away late in the second quarter, and then in the third quarter, midway through the third quarter, they absolutely pounded the goals on like they do regularly, just to give them a gap, and they ended up winning comfortably without dominating the game. There was only one goal each in the final quarter. Yeah, that's pretty much sums up the game. Was just Collingwood did what they needed to. They weren't outstanding. Richmond played a pretty solid game of football, coming off 2 wins in a row. They're playing some good football. There's no doubt about it. They're not sensational, but they're playing good football. Look at the team's stats in this one. Collingwood absolutely dominated possession, plus 60-odd disposals, plus 13 inside 50s, plus 800 metres gained. 54% time in in forward half, plus 6 contested possessions. They won intercepts plus 7. It was wet weather again, like most games this weekend. Clearances, Collingwood won by 3. Intercept marks plus 4 for Collingwood. Shots was 30-18 in favour of Collingwood. Tackles 57-39. So they won pretty much every stat category. Arguably, maybe that suggests they probably should have won by a little bit more than they did, but they did what they needed to, and that basically sums it up. Score sources plus 13 from turnover for Collingwood. Some inaccuracy hurt them here. 5 goals 13 to 4-6, and scoring from stoppages they were plus 18, 43-25. Collingwood did really well from the forward half, 64-28, and once again inaccuracy hurt them from the defensive half, kicking 2 goals 11 to 3-5. Team rating 50.81 for Collingwood suggests that they controlled this game. 42.5 is a really good number for Richmond. It's above their average. It's a pretty solid number. Unfortunately for them, they just gave up too much. And in the end, it was pretty much the Nick Dacos was the difference. He certainly gets the 3 votes in this game. There's arguably no doubt about it. He's, according to the All Aussie Rules rating system, was the second highest rated game of the season so far. According to the AFL rating system, it was the number 1 rated game of the season so far. Individually, 42 touches, 3 goals, 1, 5 shots, only 4 clearances, but did spend a bit of time off the half-back flank at times, 8 inside 50s. He pretty much did everything that he needed to and more in this game. Nick Floston, I've given 2 votes. We'll get to his stats in a minute. Tom Mitchell, I've given 1. Josh Dacos could be in the conversation. He had 30 touches. Darcy Cameron played good. Hopper was solid, but that's how the votes are going from me. MVP style, 10 votes to Nick Dacos. We've gone through his numbers. He played sensational. Darcy Cameron, 8. He was the best ruckman on the ground, clearly. 6 for Josh Dacos. Him and Nick Dacos kind of swapped a fair bit in this game. One would be back flank and one would be midfield, and then they kind of swapped a few times. He was really good, though. Isaac Quainer played probably his best game in 2 years. He was really good. Run carry, 17 touches, 10 intercepts. He was really good. Tom Mitchell played a really good game of football in the midfield as well. What were his numbers? 29 touches, 13 handball receives, a couple clearances, 7 marks. He did what he needed to. For Richmond, Nick Floston was the highest rated general defender in the competition this week. He had a really good game. 25 touches, 17 intercepts. Played really, really well. Second highest rated player on the ground. Nathan Broad gets 4 votes. He was solid. Didn't have a heap of the ball, but did what he needed to. Dion Prestia played a solid game of football. 23 touches. Steely Green kicked an absolute ripper. Kicked 2 goals for the game. He was good. He gets 2 votes. And 1 for Jaden Short, who used the ball well throughout this one as well. I think that's everything from the game. So we look at what that means for both teams. Richmond, the 16th on the ladder. They still have a winnable game or in their run home. Imagine if they were to win 6 games this year. They could still finish 15th or they could finish down, well, arguably 14th. That's not going to happen though. But they could finish 15th or they could finish 16th or 17th. Collingwood, they're top of the ladder at the moment. They're 1 game ahead. Their percentage is lower than Adelaide, who are right below them. But they now have a game and a half to 3rd and 2 games to 4th. So it just steadies them a little bit. Only 1 team in the top 9 lost this weekend, and that was Brisbane. So that just tells you that everybody's winning at the moment, and Collingwood won as well. They've got 3 big weeks coming up, though. They got Brisbane in Melbourne. They play Hawthorn off a 5-day break, again in Melbourne, and then they go to Adelaide and play Adelaide Crows. 3 massive weeks against 3 contending teams, 2nd, 3rd, and 5th on the current ladder. They play in the next 3 weeks. They win 2 of those, they pretty much guarantee a home qualifying final. If they were to drop a couple, though, all of a sudden, they should still finish top 4, but it gets harder and harder throughout, no doubt about it. Anyway, that sums that one up. We'll move into the final game of the round, and this was the best game of the round, but up until 3/4 time did not look like it was going to be that way at all. St Kilda Melbourne dominated early, 6 goals to 2 in the first quarter, 9 goals to 4 at half time, and they were up by 46 points at 3/4 time. Yep, you heard that right, 46 points. If you haven't, go and watch the last quarter of football. One of the all-time meltdowns by Melbourne and one of the all-time comebacks by St Kilda. Take nothing away from St Kilda, they played some really good football in that last quarter. But wowee, did Melbourne have an absolute collapse. It started straight away early in that last quarter. Jack Higgins kicked one straight away. Then Bradley Hill and Sharman both got one. There was a little gap before Jack Steele and Mason Wood kicked goals. And then Cooper Sharman got another one. Jack Higgins got his 2nd goal of the quarter. And then it was a bit of a stalemate for about 5 minutes. Melbourne had a chance to seal the game, really, with Clayton Oliver, but he kicked it out on the full. Went up the other end. Nashai Wanganeen-Malira took a massive contested grab, kicked the goal with 10 seconds to go in the game. And then a positional infringement by Melbourne gave St Kilda the free kick out of the middle. And once again, they find Nashai Wanganeen-Malira, who stands up, kicks 2 goals in 10 seconds, and wins the game for the Saints. Unbelievable football, unbelievable effort from St Kilda, and just crazy that they win this game of football. There was no way they were winning this throughout most of the day, but when it mattered, they stood up and they played really good in that last quarter. They ended up with plus 30 odd disposals in the game, but Melbourne had plus 9 inside 50s. Intercepts actually was plus 6 for Melbourne, so they controlled a lot of areas of this game. Clearances were pretty much dead level. Intercept marks, Melbourne 18 to 5. Shots at goal, 28 for Melbourne, just 24 for St Kilda. Melbourne will be kicking themselves for this. It was straight kicking from St Kilda, and that is probably what helped them win this game. Melbourne played 3 quarters of really good football, let themselves down with sloppy, poor decision-making in that final quarter. Scoring was pretty much level across the field. Stoppages 40 to 35 in favour of St Kilda. Turnover 50 to 47 in favour of St Kilda. Score origin, defensive half, St Kilda 50 to 29, whereas forward half was Melbourne 47 to 27. Team ratings according to All Aussie Rules system. Melbourne 45-2-1, St Kilda 44-8-4, which goes with what we're saying. Melbourne had their chances, wasted them. St Kilda took their chances, win the game of football. Brownlow votes, no doubt. Nashai Wanganeen-Malira gets the 3 votes. Pay the boy what he wants. He is a game changer. He gets the 3. Jack Sinclair 2. Max Gawn gets the 1. MVP, there's no doubt about it. Nashaya was highest rated player on the ground by an absolute mile. 34 touches, 4 goals, 1, 6 clearances, 749 metres gained. Incredible game. Jack Sinclair gets the 8. He was really good with 32 touches. Max Hall played a good game of football. He had 19 touches, 6 clearances. Jack McRae played well, and Mason Wood also played well and kicked an important goal. For Melbourne, Max Gawn was their highest rated player. He gets the 5 votes. He was the best ruckman on the ground. Jack Viney gets the 4. Christian Petrarca gets the 3 for a goal and 21 touches. 2 to Cade Chandler and 1 to Trent Rivers. That sums up that game. These two teams are not playing finals football, so we won't go too deep into what it means for them this year. It does put them level on points, only percentage separating them. 13th, 14th on the ladder. They both have winnable games next week. Probably both should win next week. Melbourne play West Coast. St Kilda play North Melbourne. I think these two teams are going to finish 12th, 13th or 14th, depending on what happens throughout the rest of the year. It's them, Carlton, and Melbourne, St Kilda, and Carlton. Those 3 teams finishing 12th, 13th, 14th. Who knows which order they'll finish? It could be any order. That's everything from that. We jump now into our Brownlow and MVP leaderboards. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to subscribe or follow, depending what platform you're on. We do 2 episodes every single week, and we also do plenty of other content on the YouTube channel and over on social medias. All Aussie Rules everywhere: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Facebook. There's probably more. It's all Aussie Rules everywhere. Go check it out. Let's jump into the leaderboards. We'll start with the Brownlow leaderboard, and we have a new leader. Solo leader now. The only one, they were dead level 23 apiece for the 3 of them last week, but Nick Dacos, with his 3 votes this week, jumps to the outright lead with 26. Dawson and Sarong on 23. Matt Rao, who's got 1 extra game coming home, is up to 22. And all of a sudden, a big chance at a Brownlow this year, because we do know that he polls pretty well and he's playing good football. 21 to Brayshaw, Max Holmes, and Nashaya making a big run late as well. That'll be interesting to see how he polls on Brownlow night, because he is a flashy player that gets very noticeable. So I think there's a good chance he polls pretty well. Bailey Smith, 20. Zach Butters 18, and then Noah Anderson 17 with John Newcomb and Connor Rose. Massive run from Dacos of recent, as well as Matt Rao, as well as Nashaya, Wangane Malira. It's going to be tight, I think, the Brownlow vote night. It will come down to 1 or 2 votes probably. So all to play for in the Brownlow. That is our update after round 20. The MVP leaderboard also has a new leader. Nick Dacos jumps to the top of that as well on 96. Matt Rowell on 95, arguably is probably the leader because he has an extra game to go. So first, second, Brody Grundy 92 with Noah Anderson. Once again, another player that has that extra game. Then 91.5 for Hugh McCluggage, 89 for Sarong, 88 for Gawn and Brayshaw. Then 86 Bailey Smith, 84 Zach Butters, 83 for Jordan Dawson. Tom Green's on 82. Luke Jackson is on 80, 79.5 for Tristan Cherry, and 77 for Connor Rose. That is your top 15 after round 20. How did our tips go this weekend? Hawthorn, we got right. They beat Carlton. It's a pretty similar margin in actual fact as well. We said 31, it was 24. Bulldogs won by 93. We get that one right. GWS, they won by 44. So they won by a bit more than we expected, but we get it right nonetheless. We got Brisbane wrong. We'll put our hands up for that. Gold Coast were way too good. They bounced back after a disappointing game the week before really well. Fremantle, they won by 49. We said 41, pretty solid. The next couple, we went way unders. Geelong won by 101 points. We get the right tip. Just massively off on the margin. Same with the next one. Adelaide smoked Port Adelaide to the tune of 98. Collingwood, we said by 35. They won by 36, so we're pretty close there. And we looked like getting the last game most of the day, but Melbourne fell over. St Kilda win by 6 points. We get that one wrong. We go 7 of 9 for the day. We're 119 on the season, so not too bad. After a really slow start to the tipping season, we're not doing too bad recently. That's pretty much everything we have for this episode of the podcast. This was episode number 52. This was round 20. We'll be back on Thursday morning with our round 20 preview, round 21 preview episode, sorry. Really big games of football next weekend. There weren't too many competitors playing against each other this week. Only Gold Coast Brisbane, really. Next week, that all changes. We start Thursday night, Bulldogs, GWS. That will be huge. Friday night, Adelaide, Hawthorn. Another huge game there. And then Saturday night is Collingwood, Brisbane. Huge again. So we've got 3 massive games, 3 nights in a row next weekend. So make sure you come back. Episode number 53 on Thursday. You won't want to miss it. We'll have all the tips for you. Hopefully, we can find you all the winners. We'll also have a ladder prediction video going up on YouTube this week, so go check that out on the YouTube channel. Thank you for watching another episode of the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. I'm Jay, and I'll catch you on the next one.